Hi, thanks for joining us today. I'm Donna Carrick of Dead to Rights, the podcast. I'm here today on behalf of the Mesdames of Mayhem to interview my very good friend, Catherine Astolfo, who is the author of many books and many short stories, including an award-winning short story titled, I think it was called, what was it called, Kathy?
Well, there are two of them.
Oh, tell us both.
One was called What Kelly Did, and the other one is called The Outlier.
The Outlier was what I was trying to come up with. But What Kelly Did, that's kind of intriguing because I'm old enough to remember What Katie Did.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
That's exactly the play on words. You're right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So you were going for a theme there.
Well, yeah. I don't think Katie would have done this.
No. Catherine's got a story in the Spirit of 13, as do all the authors that I'm interviewing for this series. And Catherine's story is titled In the Spirit of 13. And no, I'm sorry. That's what the book is called. The story is titled The Spirit of St. Louis. Can you tell us a little bit about the Spirit of St. Louis, Kathy?
Yes, absolutely. When I met this woman at a presentation we were doing in the Simcoe Library a few years ago, she said, you should write about Renton, Ontario. And I said, Renton is so tiny. I mean, there's nothing there. She said, oh, well, actually, we had a famous pilot come to visit our village many years ago by the name of Charles Lindbergh. And apparently there was a historian in the village who helped Charles Lindbergh find his relatives, some distant, some not so distant, who actually came from that area. So the Lindbergh family was American, but they came from Canadian stock. A lot of them moved down there to sort of make their fortune. And so Charles Lindbergh came up to see this historian, find out all about his ancestors. And then when the historian died, they had an auction, auctioning off all of his books and so on and so forth. And this woman went into the auction just out of curiosity. She saw a woman steal a box of books from there. And she thinks that part of what the theft was about was that there was a book in the box that was signed by Charles Lindbergh to the historian. So anyway, of course, I took that nugget and went crazy with it, because as soon as the Mesdames decided on the spirit theme, I thought, okay, because Charles Lindbergh wrote the book, The Spirit of St. Louis, or Louis, because it's spelled the French way.
Of course.
Yeah. I thought, oh, this is perfect. This fits in. Finally, I'm going to be able to write about Renton, Ontario.
There you go. Yeah, it's we went with a very different theme for us this time. Most of us are straight crime writers, although some do dabble in paranormal or that sort of thing. But we decided just to really play this time, and we've got all these wonderful stories. The talent in this anthology is just amazing. Not the least of which is yours, Kathy. I wanted to touch again on The Outlier, because if anybody hasn't read it, it's an award-winning short story. It's a brilliant short story, and it appears in 13 Claws by the Mesdames of Mayhem. So if you will look for that. Now, I keep saying the Mesdames of Mayhem, but we're actually the Mesdames and Messieurs. We just call ourselves the Mesdames for shortness, but we do have men in our group as well. Kathy, can you tell us about your upcoming work, The Grand Art of Murder?
Yes, I actually, finished this book about a woman who moves to the Grand River a made-up little village next to Brantford, which is where I live. And but it's my vision of where I would love to live, you know, right on the hill, overlooking the river, and there would be a little pub that I could walk to, and
That's essential.
yeah,
That's essential. Sorry to interrupt you.
exactly. Anyway, and her mother she's deceased at quite a young age. So she misses her mother, but they also drove each other crazy. Anyway, her mother becomes her ghost. And of course, there's a murder in the village and so on and so forth. And, you know, a skeleton gets dug up out of her barn and you name it happens. Her mother is the one who in the background says all the things that the daughter might think, but not say out loud. So that's the humorous part.
Yes.
And then, of course, there's the murder mystery that they have to resolve. And I had fun writing it, and I'll probably write another one because I like the characters. And she's an artist, the main protagonist. And I love writing about the various types of art that she gets involved in too. So
yes, and that's something that I find really always very interesting is the various forms of art that are out there, because they really inspire writers. Like I find if I get writer's block and I look at paintings,
yes,
there's something about the visual arts that are so much more immediate, and they help to spur you on. I mean, I couldn't paint my way out of a wet paper bag, but I can appreciate them, you know.
Exactly. Yes, I am my best friend is an artist. And so I'm always consulting her about how Helen Duplassy is her name in case anyone wants to look her up.
Hasn't she? Because
yes.
If you don't know Catherine Astolfo, look her up. She's got a couple of series. She's been a very prolific writer and a really active member of our group for many years. Tell us a couple of your titles, Catherine, that Helen may have done the covers for.
Oh, yes. She did the covers for the Emily Taylor mysteries, the original ones. She did a cover, and my niece did another cover, and so on. Or I think Helen did two covers. Those were the originals. And since then, they've been redone by a traditional publisher. The traditional publisher went under, so they've been redone just on Amazon for free.
The publishing industry. So really, folks, if you're looking at getting into writing for fame, glory, and lots of money, maybe you want to look elsewhere. Because such is the book industry as we know it.
Yeah, was it John Steinbeck who said, writing for a living makes betting on horses look like a sure thing?
I think that's pretty well said, actually. Yeah, that's an actual photo of the Grand River behind you, isn't it?
It is. Yes, I took it.
But I asked Kathy earlier, just so I'm not trying to pull a fast one. Tell us when that was taken.
Actually, my neighbor and I we have to drive to the river from here, from where we live in Brantford, but it's worth the drive because then you get to walk along these gorgeous trails that they've got. They're all paved. They go through the woods. We see deer and raccoons and birds and you name it. And it's absolutely one of the most beautiful rivers I've ever seen. So it's great to be able to go, and that's along that one trail that we do quite often.
And that's just a gorgeous spot. I really like that. It's so lush. And thank God it's got a pub in walking distance.
Well, that's in my fictional village.
Yeah.
In here, yes, actually, there are a couple of places I could walk to.
Okay, very good.
But it seems my back deck is even more convenient. So
yeah, I would imagine. That's right. Yeah. I mean, if you can keep the back deck well stocked, if you get my drift.
Yes.
What are you working on next?
Well, I'm working on, it sounds bizarre, I think, but I'm working on a book of short stories that are all about the Irish immigrant experience in Canada. Although there are some that flash back to Ireland and their experience there, based very loosely on my grandmother and my mother, and my aunts and so on, who experienced that in, themselves. And their stories that they told me when I was a kid. So in the book, there are two voices. One, the main voice, her name is Emma, and she is writing about her aunt who told her different stories. So and then Emma grows up to be a writer. So, so it's all mixed up with Emma's stories and her aunt's stories. So they're all separate little stories, but they're connected.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you're not the only one of our group that's reaching back into roots to tell stories right now too. I'm not going to talk out of school because I'll be interviewing a couple of them, but we do have a couple that are doing a similar thing, not with the Irish experience, but one is going back mentally on a boat from Italy, Another has been writing for years about the whole experience of, having ancestors who survived the Second World War in Europe. So
Right.
it's fascinating to do that. And I wonder if we reach a point in our lives where that does kind of grow in importance to us.
I think you're right. I mean, I've always wanted to write these stories, but I've written quite a few of them, so I can reach back into my old writing and see, oh yeah, that's the idea I had for that, or this is a seed for the next one. But I never really could think of how to connect it all or how to make it into a book until actually it was Melody Campbell who said to me, since you're so good at writing short stories, why don't you do this as a book of short stories?
Yes. And just in capture. I was speaking with Rosemary Aubert this morning, and she was saying that to her, the short story kind of, it captures a moment in your mind in a way that a novel can't, because a novel, you've got to carry that theme on and on and on for days of slogging and weeks and months and sometimes years of slogging. Yeah. But with a short story, you have an idea and it's right there. It's like a snapshot.
Yes. That's the beauty of putting these short stories into the book, and yet having it all connected. These are little snapshots of a period of time in those people's lives. And it has a beginning, a middle, and end, but it's also still part of, like you said, it's just like a collection. It's like an album, a collection of photographs. Yeah. Each one has its own story, but they're all of the same family.
Yes. And that's what we are going to have to do to keep people reading in this world too, because I know as a former teacher, keeping people reading is really important to you. And it's really important to me too. But if we want to do that, if we want to entice those readers, we've got to be able to take those ideas and turn them into almost a visual art, turn them into something that has a little more immediacy than we are used to thinking of literary arts,
Right.
Short stories and novellas are a great way to do that.
I agree. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I think, I've seen a few books of short stories lately, and I think that's exactly why that trend is becoming extremely popular.
Yes. Yeah. Well, Kathy, thank you very much for joining us today. I really appreciate it. And
thank you.
Don't worry, we'll edit out all the little weird noises and ghosts. Everybody look for In the Spirit of 13 coming out this fall, 2022, by the Mesdames of Mayhem. And in particular, look for Catherine Astolfo for her story, The Spirit of St. Louis. And that's Lewis, as opposed to the French spelling Louis. So we're not making a mistake in our pronunciation there. It was great to have you. Thanks, Kathy.
Thank you, Donna. I always enjoy talking to you. Thanks a lot.
dusty road, man alone. His vital signs go on hold, and I don't know what you've been told, but the years have turned my eyes gold. And I told you what you told me, we'd never be in the same boat for free. Yet it rides